Hello, it's tea time. My name is Grand Duke Fogg. I'm the former monarch of the Celestial Kingdom. Recently, I completed 2 reigns, and then spent a year on the board of directors as the president. During that time, I was also sued for $1 million, of which we are now discussing. I'm here because a couple days ago, I was actually suspended, banned from the Celestial Kingdom by the current monarchy. And I was actually kind of taken aback. I've been on a break since I left office back in May of 2020. It's now January 2021. Since Amgard isn't really being played at the park too much right now due to the pandemic, I had no real reason to come out. So I deleted Facebook and started doing other hobbies and was kind of relaxing. This video is kind of like a means of telling you why I'm suspended, because since I'm the suspended person, I can tell you. And it's okay, and I totally give permission to anyone who wants to share this video that they may, with my full consent. Funny story. I was actually playing video games online with a friend, and he asked me, "So what's up with this 2-year suspension?" And I don't know, I probably died in Call of Duty at that time. And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure, you've been suspended. They just announced it today for 2 years and a subsequent 2 years of probation of not being able to hold office at any level." I kind of laughed because I had no clue as to why they would suspend me, not only for this long, but an additional probation. So he asked me if I knew, if I had known about it. I said no, I hadn't been notified. And I also pointed out, yeah, that's kind of funny considering the people that are on the suspension review committee right now are the ones that put into the Kapora, our bylaws, that you have to notify them before you make an announcement now. So he went back and he posted that to the original post, or sent that message out about me not being notified. And of course, the monarch promptly then emailed me. Let me read to you word for word what I was told why I was suspended when I inquired. All the actions that led to the insurance company dropping our coverage, including, but not limited to, making false allegations against another Populous member, leading to a lawsuit in inevitably the loss of our insurance and money costs. So that's actually really interesting that our SRC, or Suspension Review Committee, was able to make a proper, unbiased investigation into a situation that, first of all, the Celestial Kingdom was party to the settlement. So now they're disagreeing with the settlement that was originally put forward. And then saying that I made false accusations when I never made any allegations or accusations. Okay? The people reporting things were the ones making allegations towards people, and then the kingdom took action based on the rules of play and the code of conduct. So for them to say that I'm making false allegations and that led to the lawsuit, that led to the insurance loss, and that's a good reason to ban someone, that's incorrect and it's unjust. It also goes against our bylaws because the indemnification clause will cover any of that. And in fact, that's why the insurance company got involved to begin with. Yes, thank you. I have to say a big thanks to Lady Hopper, who's my man-at-arms, for initiating that petition, because it is a part of our process to be able to review suspensions by setting up a petition and getting the committee to review it. It's a way for the populace to have a route to actually get their suspension reviewed. Previously, that didn't exist. That's actually something that I pushed for while I was a monarch, because one of the members that had been suspended was complaining about and making a lot of noise about not really having any avenue. And it wasn't outlined in the bylaws. So I did set up that process, and it was voted in sometime during my reign. So big thanks to everyone who is signing that petition. If you haven't yet, you can email secretary@ampedguardck.org with your typical information, your mundane name, your game name, your park, and you also must be a contributing member. Now let's actually get into it. No, actually, the reason for my suspension is not valid, primarily because what's happening is our leadership are taking steps that are contrary to the bylaws of our organization. A lot of people fail to realize that this is a legal organization in the state of Texas and that our bylaws are legally binding. For them to take an action against me for a role that I played while I was in office and covered under the insurance indemnification clause of our bylaws goes contrary to those, and it actually puts them at extreme risk as well. Because when I was Monarch and I had to make that decision to suspend and follow our process for that, I was doing it in good faith. I was taking a report in from a member of our organization in complete good faith, given the benefit of the doubt, as we should. And subsequently, people were suspended temporarily, and they didn't like that, and they made a huge ruckus. I think it's unjust, and I think it's retaliation. And it doesn't surprise me that it waited to happen until the right people were in certain positions for it to happen. That's actually a really good question. At the time that I made that decision, I was the monarch of the kingdom. The monarch has to have agreement from either the KPM, which is the Kingdom Prime Minister, or the GMR, which is the Guildmaster of Reeves. It takes at least a minimum of 2 people to be able to initiate a suspension against a member of the kingdom. This is in accordance with the rules of play of AmpGuard, which we lease from AmpGuard Incorporated. It's tied to the lawsuit because the insurance company was then required to step in and take over the lawsuit because of the indemnification clause within our bylaws. That actually covers the volunteers so that they're able to act in good faith for the organization and be covered from stuff like lawsuits, personal losses, and things like that. The insurance, deems that they are responsible for that, and that coverage will take care of it. No, the process for this suspension was followed with how the organization has been doing it for years. A report was taken in from another officer, actually. That officer had sent out an invitation to the entire populace, and they got a response back from one of the members and said that they didn't want to be notified anymore because someone had committed some acts, or she at least alleged some acts had occurred, that the officer then had to report to me while I was the monarch. After that, we investigated as much as we could by getting all the information from the alleged victim, and based on what was said there, then we made the decision that we were going to temporarily suspend the persons involved so that it would protect the populace while having to then shift out the investigation to the mundane authorities. Yes, the person was notified of their suspension via Facebook Messenger, and his response, I believe, was "What?" And it was really short. We actually didn't have a real good conversation at all. I mean, a conversation at all. Whether it was good or bad wasn't even relevant at that point because it was like 3 words. Later, I think I messaged him. Later that day, I messaged him again with some additional information, and all his response was with thanks. No, actually, I didn't make a police report. What we did was we followed the same process that was laid out by the Circle of Monarchs when we had a previous monarch say something online that they wanted us to then report to the local authorities. We used that as a template and did the exact same thing. We took the statements from the alleged victim and put them into a summary. We never agreed with or disagreed with what the person was saying. All we did was take them and then pass them on to the local authorities. What happened was we took them to the local authority we assumed to be the correct, based on the address of where the occurrences happened or were alleged to have happened. And then that authority said that they weren't in the correct district for that, and we went to then the county sheriff who's had jurisdiction. The county sheriff then told me that the persons involved had to make the actual police report. But we accomplished what we needed to. We got an event number from that sheriff that showed that we actually took the report to them so that we would be absolved as an organization of any kind of reporting. No, our actions didn't actually open the case. As I've said before, the alleged victim had to open the case, is what we were told by the sheriff's department. When I notified her of this and gave them the contact information they had given me, she then promptly opened a case. And then she reported back to me the actual case number that she said that was involved. Well, that's where it all began, right? Within 24 hours, over half of the board was served with demand letters from his attorney, with threats of litigation and a lawsuit. We were told to save all of our conversations and not to destroy any documents or anything like that, which of course we wouldn't. That made no sense. But it's legalese. So we knew right then that something was coming and we were going to have to get ready for it. We needed to engage a lawyer, and that we all agreed on that. But we ran into a problem with the fact that lawyers are expensive. Our organization doesn't pull in a whole lot of money. We had just paid off all of the bills from Spring War, if I recall, and we had around $1,700 in the coffers. There wasn't a lawyer that was going to take on something like this for less than $10,000. The board voted unanimously to allow me to retain a lawyer on behalf of the organization. I then went into my bank and I applied for a loan and got the $5,000 necessary to start the retainer, and then we executed the contract with the law firm. You can find that in the minutes, the BOD minutes found on the Facebook page, the BOD Drive most likely, and all that. I was served the lawsuit about 16 days after we posted the notification, which was really fast considering that I was trying to verify some information that they were saying to try and resolve the issue. They were making claims that they weren't a part of the investigation that the alleged victim had started, and I was doing my best to verify that, but the problem was, the law system is really slow. The detective that they assigned to the case to was actually on vacation, and he was going to be on vacation for about 11 more days from what I recall. And so 11 days out of the 16, we didn't have any time at all, because even after he got back from his vacation, I had left multiple messages with him. He never responded, and that continued. And unfortunately, it's just a little over 2 weeks that I was served with a $1 million lawsuit. That's a really good question. The bylaws require that we maintain directors and overseers insurance, but that hadn't been done. There was a big push to try and get it a couple years previously, but with as fluid as our BOD is, it's just not something that got finalized ever. And unfortunately, without that, it was a little bit confusing as to whether or not we were actually covered for the lawsuit. The new president that came in after the old one resigned was able to later then get the documents of the actual insurance policy, was able to go through those and find out that it did cover libel and slander under our general insurance policy. So with that, our insurance company was then engaged, and the lawsuit was then transitioned over to their law firm because now it was the insurance company's lawsuit. She did sign 2 affidavits for the suspended person's attorney, stating that she never said the things that she said. But we were getting conflicting reports from both that side of the world and this side, and she had told us directly after that via text message that she had to say these things in the affidavit because she felt like the lawyers were going after her, and they were. She was threatened with a demand letter as well. She then made another affidavit after a video she had sent. She had sent a video, and she had wanted everything redacted and everything like that because she was scared and felt like she was being going after. And everything about this whole situation was super complicated. We now have a person who had reported these issues, wanted us to take, the actions that we needed to take to resolve them, and stated that these people were a part of this report to the mundane authorities. And we were still trying to confirm this, whether or not it was going on. So we had to maintain until we got that information, because we didn't want to prematurely unsuspend somebody who may still be a part of a mundane investigation for some very serious accusations. It took a very long time to actually confirm that he wasn't a part of the original police report that the alleged victim had claimed he was. It's unfortunate that it took that long. I did try my best in reaching out to the sheriff's department on multiple occasions, while of course handling all my duties as Monarch, it kept me busy. It was essentially like 80-hour work weeks just for this game and the volunteer position, and then another 40 hours of my normal mundane job. But ultimately, it took about 3 months for us to actually confirm that he wasn't on the police report. And on the same day that happened, I got with my Monarchy and we unsuspended him. The police report, they didn't even know it, that the report had closed, not even the person that it was actually involved with. But the report itself ended up being closed, unfounded. And we were able to get an open records request for that. And they shipped over that document, and it definitely showed that his name was not on it at all. At that point, we unsuspended him with the stipulations that he's unsuspended, but he had until, I think, February or something like that to actively try and resolve the lawsuit situation, either settling, dropping, or concluding in some way, which doesn't seem to be unreasonable, since a good number of people within the community feel like if you sue the Monarch or one of the volunteers that you should just go away permanently and never come back. We're trying to be very lenient to that and give an opportunity, ample time legally to do so. He posted to his Facebook page that this changes nothing. So he seemed like he was going to be pretty obstinate. The lawyer that we had retained then submitted a dismissal. Motion to dismiss. And nothing came of it. The judge never responded to it, so it automatically falls out, which then gets denied in the legal system. Yeah, it's a great legal system. And so then we moved into discovery. That was pretty much 2019. So yeah, he actually still wanted a bunch of money, go figure. And then, since it couldn't be reached, the stipulations fell out as well, and he was resuspended for suing a Monarch. The lawsuit was settled out of court May of 2020, towards the end of that. It actually never went to trial, so there is no winner, as none of the evidence was tried in court. What happened was all the parties involved decided to walk away from it after the settlement, and that's where it ended. The insurance company decided that they wanted to try and settle the suit. This is actually not uncommon for insurance companies in situations like this with this type of a lawsuit, mainly because they don't really have an active interest in the outcome. They don't care if I was right, they don't care if he was right, they don't care about that. What an insurance company likes to care about is their bottom line. So what happens is, if they can, they get both sides to try to settle out of court for a much lesser amount of money, because a lawsuit of this amount, first of all, if it goes out of their favor, then they may end up being able to pay out the amount that they're being sued for. And then even if it goes in their favor, these types of lawsuits can go on for years and rack up anywhere between $250,000 to $500,000 in and of itself, which is not great for them. So they typically do decide to settle. And I felt the same way. Again, I was ready to be done. After 2 years of spending all that time getting hounded by some people as well. I actually didn't write the apology statement. That was a collaboration between the insurance company's lawyers, him, and his lawyers. I wasn't even on that phone call, actually. I didn't agree with what was being said in it, and I didn't agree to sign it. So all of the sides had to kind of compromise quite a bit. I wanted to make sure that what was in it was something that, first of all, I would be okay saying with, and that it didn't somehow create an environment where people were anti-reporting. In this type of a situation, in this game, we don't want people to see this and say, oh, well, I shouldn't report this thing or that thing because it's going to get me in trouble. We should be able to openly report issues that we have within our game with members, either directly or adjacently to our leadership, so that they can take the proper actions and keep our populaces safe. We want to make sure that this is both a family-friendly game and safe for everyone that's involved. What I signed was actually as close to a compromise as both parties could get. The call that they were on actually took all day. I think it started around 9:30 or 10 o'clock and was going on until 6 or 7. And it kept going back and forth where he was wanting things in the apology, very specific things, which I imagine were to make him look better about him suing. I don't know, really. There was just so much stuff in there that I didn't agree with, and it had to come down to a compromise. Otherwise, I wasn't going to agree to even sign one. I was a hard no on a gag clause for this settlement. And the reason being is the entire time I'm also thinking about the rest of Amtgard, the rest of the kingdoms that are involved, and what they're going to have to go through, and how this particular incident is going to create a type of precedence in how they have to handle things on their end. So making sure that the actual settlement itself was open, I told the lawyers that I wouldn't agree to a gag clause at all. I also knew that the other guys were already talking about everything to multiple people, because this stuff all kept finding its way out to the forum and stuff like that. So I didn't think it would be fair for me to be gagged because I would follow the rules while they just continued to blab their mouths about everything. So over the course of this, before the insurance company actually took it over, I paid a total of 3 retainers, and each of them being the $5,000 each. I actually sent an invoice to the organization for the $15,000 recently, along with all of the information that they needed to verify that it's a valid invoice, because indemnification covers that. Now, they may be dragging their feet on that. Intentionally, it seems like they are telling me to pretty much pound sand, which is funny. And I don't know if I should blame them too much, because they are new, and I totally understand how difficult being in a position is as a volunteer and not really having the legal sense or understanding of everything that went on. There's a lot of nuance around this entire situation, and they just need to understand that all of that's covered under the bylaws. Now I'm just waiting for an official response. When it comes down to it, yes, this is still just a game, but it's also very important that people want to volunteer to take part in that game, because none of the events will run, none of the paperwork gets filed, none of the awards get passed out if there is not people in those positions to actually handle those roles. We want to maintain a good atmosphere for new people to come in and keep this game flourishing. That requires us to make sure that our volunteers are taken care of and not abused and mistreated. Let's not sue them. Let's not berate them. Let's educate them, both on the bylaws, the rules of play, and what the hell indemnification means.